Hey, Katie.
Hey girl.
Katie, thank you so much for joining me on the Silver Lining series. It's so good to see you, and you've got to tell me where the heck you are, because that background is not a virtual background, it's a real thing.
This is a real background. It's really great to see you too. I'm glad you're happy and healthy.
Yes.
Um, I am on top of a mountain in Utah, Powder Mountain. So it's very beautiful. When I first got here a couple weeks ago, we were having snow at night, but today it's almost 55 degrees. So I
Oh
figured I'd
my
bring you all outside and get a little mountain view.
oh my gosh, it looks amazing.
Yeah, I feel very grateful to be here.
Yes, thank you for leaving this epic center of New York City and being in Utah. Like, thank you, because
Yeah,
if
I
I could
got
have,
out like I think like 3 days before they were like, don't do that. But I'm far outside of my 2 weeks, so I feel good, and I have a little bit more space to move around, which is nice.
nice, 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 nice. But before we even dive in, let me introduce who you are to people who don't know. Katie Longmyer. I call you a cultural architect, and the reason why I know Katie is because she produces some of the most high class top experiences for brands and celebrities and just media outlets. You can convert space like no other. So shout out to you for being like brilliant and genius in who you are and how you're able to like keep this culture moving forward.
Thank you so much.
And you're the owner and CEO of Good People's, which is another brand that you have out there that's connecting the dots and connecting the culture and putting out amazing, amazing experiences as well in New York City and beyond. So that's Katie Longmyer, and once again, one of the dynamic people that I know that's in my circle. That's why I needed to talk to you about what's happening now, what you're doing, and the silver lining. So you're in Utah. How are you feeling though? Like, how has this pandemic kind of messed up your psyche, or are you writing it out? How are you feeling?
I mean, I think it's disruptive to all people, just in different ways. I think one of the things that really struck me is like I come from a single mom who is self-made, and I'm self-made, and but even through that, I feel like I'm positioned in a place of extreme privilege at this time because I have a lot of friends who work. The nature of being in events is that you're in hospitality, sort of like you're hospitality adjacent. And
Right.
so I have so many friends in the restaurant industry, the bar industry, the hotel industry, and they all lost their job overnight. Um, I have a different day-to-day job right now, so I have a lot of security, and I had the luxury to have a place to go and the
Mm-hmm.
means to do so. And there are a lot of people who are with their families. Um, you know, I just want to. I think one of the biggest things for me was to have the moment of reflection on the work that I did to get me to the place to have this privilege, and then because of where I came from, the obligation I now feel to spend the majority of my time giving back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I it's like it's a thing I have to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel very compelled to do it. So I think that's where I'm sitting with it right now. I think it also illuminated sort of like the significance of interpersonal relationships and depth of relationships. So um, when you're in a moment of concern and you're thinking about who's good, it brings up like people, places, and things in a different way. And it very quickly kind of like readjusted and realigned my relationships. And then a lot of the stuff that you hold on day to day that maybe isn't as big as you'd like it to be just falls away because
Mm-hmm.
you want to value those things and articulate that value before you can't. So, for me, it's kind of like a big equalizer emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
um, in that way too.
Uh, Now, going back to the hospitality, you have been doing something that's quite creative for your friends in the circle, the hospitality circle. You were doing a fundraiser for them, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was actually started by somebody else, but I was tapped into it, and it's the virtual tip jar, which is that
Mhm.
a lot of us, particularly in the hospitality industry, we go out a lot, and we have friends who are serving us dinner, serving us drinks, working back of house in the kitchen, front of house, making sure we're having the best night ever. And they all lost their jobs, but I basically the idea is that all the money and tips that you would be spending normally,
Mhm.
try to spend at least half of that in a virtual tip jar. So it all goes to these two organizations that are supporting staff of the hospitality industry. And so a lot of people are doing it like literally actually taking cash. A lot of people in the hospitality work off of cash, so they have the cash. I don't, so I made a virtual tip jar on PayPal and I posted it on my Instagram so anybody could do it. I was trying to give wider access, so you can see how much is in the tip jar, and every time you drink you can literally put like $2 in there, $5 in there. It goes from your PayPal to the jar, and then it gets
Nice.
sent directly to that organization. If you click on it, there's like links and tags and all of that stuff. But it's my way of like, if I'm having a glass of wine, I want to make sure that I'm not just like, this is kind of like that privilege and community aspect of it, is like I can have a glass of wine anytime I want. If I was home and this wasn't happening, there's an 80% chance I'd be doing it at a bar where the bartender was a friend. And so I would normally over tip them anyway because I'm at a bar with my friend. That's sort of like my MO. So why wouldn't I do that now when I have the means to do so? So, that's not for everybody. Not everyone has that opportunity, but for those of us who do, that's something I'm putting out there.
That's so awesome. That is so awesome. And what a way to give back. I didn't even think about that. And it's like, yes, I am drinking more at home.
I think a lot of people are.
I am
I mean, I
drinking a
can't take
lot
credit
more.
for it, but the people in the hospitality industry who started it, there's a Instagram, which I think is Virtual Drink for Hospitality is the name of
Mhm.
the Instagram, and you can go there and see all the people who are posting and all the people who are connected, and those are the people who are gonna like help. And so
Mhm.
if you're online and you're having a drink, like pop over and drop in the tip jar.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How else are you managing during these times? What else are you doing?
I am a creature of routine. So
Hmm.
there's an interesting balance that I'm trying to have of this is like a time to surrender and pause, which is like, again, like contextually I have the luxury to do that. But for me, it's like I could easily open my computer from the second I woke up until the second I went to bed and like be doing something.
Hmm.
Um, but there's also this very unique situation where everyone's schedule is shifted. And so I have opportunities to pause, and I'm trying to let myself do that. So if I want to stop and step away, I do. Sometimes I think the other day on a random day, I just shut my computer and was like, I'm gonna watch movies all day. Because I need a break, because like
Hmm.
it's the inundation of information and news, and like, and also like as this is spreading and touching more people, like the news isn't just the news on TV. The news is of people who are close to me who have gotten sick or are recovered or at a certain point in their recovery, and that's all important news. And then like I'm talking to more people than I've ever talked to before in volume. So like all of that is a lot, so
Yeah.
sometimes you need to rest and you need to process and you need to think about what that means for you. Like this is bringing up all kinds of things for everybody, I think, which is like what's important to me and why. Should I be doing this thing? Should I not be doing this thing? Do I have to or
Mm-hmm.
not?
Hmm.
And what does the future state look like?
Hmm.
So um I think that that's what it's bringing up for me, is just like a lot of that reflection. I've been journaling a lot. I
Good.
drink ceremonial cacao as a practice in the mornings. And so I've really kind of like leaned into that as a way to nourish my body physically, like healthily, because it has so many
Hmm.
nutrients, but also spiritually, as a point of like brief reflection every day.
And
And then
pause right there. Pause right there because I want to back up this cacao. Speak a little bit more about that so people understand what that is, or what is a ceremonial cacao?
Cacao is a plant. The one that I get is from Guatemala. It is, you see cacao all over. It's a superfood and everything. But what it is a rich and nutrient food that's indigenous to South America. I use Legacy Cacao, which is
Hmm.
legacycacao.com, and I want to give them a shout out. It's beautiful cacao made by a Guatemalan community. It's cultivated all by women, and all of the money goes back to that community. So like, I really like that. And they're delivering right now, and it's really interesting because it has so many healthy nutrients in it. Like 1 cup of cacao, which is basically drinking a luxurious cup of hot chocolate, is giving you almost double the nutrients you need in the day, and more nutrients that in one item than you can get in like any other plant. So that's why it's so interesting, and that's why so many people are like cacao crazy when you go and you see like cacao nibs to put in your cereal and stuff. But
Hmm.
ceremonial cacao, I drink pure. Sometimes I'll add some coconut oil in it other than hot water. It's been spiritually like attuned to the Mayan calendar, and I sit there and I set an intention for the day for myself, and it opens up your bliss molecule,
Mm-hmm.
It, it's not getting you high or anything, but it does open up your bliss molecule, which is just like being open-hearted. And I think that's the thing that we need right now. So that's my practice, is take a moment, open your heart, nourish your body, and like clean your mind by setting an intention that you can carry throughout the day.
Yeah.
Um, and then also like I am a diehard Pilates person. And I love my Pilates instructor, Dakota. And so we've been doing virtual private one-on-ones several times a week so that I can just, I find that it's like, it's hard. She's kicking my ass,
Yeah.
uh, which is great. But
Yes.
it also is like moving my body is, so much is trapped in my body. Like I think a lot of the things that I'm not even realize I'm processing or thinking or feeling sit in my body. So like working out, like pushes it out.
Yes. Yes.
Even if you just go and take a walk, because I know not everybody has the luxury to do all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Getting up and walking around is, I mean, I obviously have a beautiful place to walk around, but I think even if I was in Manhattan, I would like, walk 10 blocks or something just to get
Yeah.
it out of my system.
Yeah, I know that for us, they're telling us, stay home, stay home, stay home. But I've found for me personally, like walking around my neighborhood and going all the way down the block, even if it's just to discover a new store that's in my area. It's probably closed, but it's still a new store, new awning, has done it for me lately. I have to get out and walk and breathe in some fresh air.
Yeah, I think the fresh air is important. I think you have to be mindful about the people around you and like, cross the street if there's too many people there. And I think that distance is essential, especially seeing how many people are getting sick so quickly. But
Right.
I don't think that just staying inside is the solution. I do think that you have to like find the safe way to like, take a 5-minute walk during the day.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Katie, with all that you're doing, I mean, blessed you are to be able to be in to be able to be there and have this moment of reflection. What do you suggest us people do that are in New York outside of taking walks? What's some creative or innovative things that you think we should be doing at this time?
I actually think a lot of people should reflect. I think a lot of stuff that, like, I actually find the journaling to be really interesting, like a daily check-in. I find it hard to check in with myself at that level every day, but the discipline of it is really helpful because when you wake up and you said just simply, you're like, how am I feeling? Do I feel happy? Do I feel sad? Does my back hurt? Am I wide awake? Just like tracking that is really interesting.
Yeah.
And sometimes for me to like do it in a really simple way is I like bullet point it out. I don't write these like big long things because like I can't get that reflective that fast. I need some more time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that just like the self check-in is really interesting. And then also like when something comes up around this, like for me, when I start to feel fear, anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
sadness, lack of connection with people, like if I don't hear back from someone, I'll start to freak out. Um, I stop myself and say, why am I feeling that way? And I think a lot of it, and it's turned into this practice where like when you start asking the why question and not the like just going after the thing, um,
Mm-hmm.
you, you get a lot of interesting answers back. So why do I feel fearful? Is it because I'm afraid I'm going to lose that person, or is it because I haven't been showing up in this relationship enough? Or
Woo!
yeah, you know what I mean? It's just all different kinds of things come up if you really are willing to ask yourself why.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have anxiety about work because I think work is not working out, or do I have anxiety about work because all of a sudden I'm privileged enough to be working really hard, but I don't really love what I'm doing? Like I'm really lucky, I love what I'm doing, but I've run into a lot of people who are reflecting that, and then also just you know ask yourself how you can help in a way that works for you to help. And sometimes for some people that's going to be peaceful resting, like literally doing nothing. For other people, I think it's going to be connection. Reach out to the people you love and check in on them on a regular basis so that it's a mutually fulfilling practice. And then for other people, it'll be action. So I jumped into this global hackathon because I just was super excited to talk to a bunch of smart people. I was looking for classes to take. I'm taking a class, but I sort of stumbled into this community, and they're scaling, a bunch of really smart people getting together to solve global problems around COVID. And I think that that's super interesting. So I decided to dedicate a little bit of my time to that. So I think that first is that give yourself permission for the answer to that question to be nothing. Give
Mm-hmm.
yourself permission for your answer to that to be, I have to work right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm not working, I need to like rest or take care of my family. And
Mm-hmm.
then take the rest of the time to nurture yourself and see what shows up,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
connection, and then finding the way for you and your means and in your way to help is fine. And the internet is a beautiful thing for that.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know, all
absolutely.
these people like beating people up for staying home and chilling. I'm not really kind of with that. I think that a lot of people have needed a break, and they should take it. And then the
Yes.
people who are on the front lines who are working really hard, um, the one thing I would say is it's on all of us to acknowledge them, and that's not just with applause. It's through resources or connecting people. You know, you can make an introduction that's helpful.
Yeah.
Um, you know, the hackathon, amplifying that hackathon was a way that I felt that I could be helpful, because that's a bunch of people who are going to come up with solutions that'll get funded, that hopefully will solve a problem. Like, I'm obviously not the problem solver, but I am the amplifier, and that felt like doing good work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, give yourself permission, I guess, is the thing.
Yes, absolutely. Is there a silver lining to this? Do you think, do you like during your reflection, have you looked back and said, this incident has light at the end of the tunnel? There's a silver lining to this?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a crumbling before a rebirth, but
Mm-hmm.
I do think that we're seeing in real time what infrastructures weren't strong. We're seeing in real time
Mm.
um, what platforms weren't truly democratized. I think that at least in the United States, we were sitting around feeling very luxuriously sitting in a democracy, and in real time, you're watching like people who don't have means be really struggle, and people who do have means really check
Yes.
out. And I think, I know
Yes.
that's a very broad generalization, but I just think the point is that it's not equal,
Yes.
and the infrastructure around it was never designed to sustain equality. And I think even though it's a really painful crumbling and there's a lot of suffering around it, I do think that the solutions that will be birthed out of that hopefully will move forward and point us in a different direction. I also think, you know, and you know, I'd like preach this. Sometimes I feel like I'm a broken record, but I truly believe that community is the solution to all things. Like, you know,
Yeah.
you and your neighbor, and the people around you and the people you know and the network around those people. So in a very unique way, everyone sort of has to be mindful of their neighbor, even if it's just for personal health reasons, but also for like need reasons. And I think in my experience, 99% of the people I encounter with have become more empathetic, aware, connected,
Yeah.
helpful, not because they weren't, but now there's more space to do so. And they actually are understanding the repercussions of not doing so because it's a crisis. But what I'm hoping is that that's going to turn into a practice that stays.
Yeah.
Um, and I actually think that's going to create different ways of working and different ways of communicating and different ways of being.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a long game. And I do think that we're all sort of experiencing shared trauma, and we're going to come out of that shared trauma needing shared healing. And um,
Ah,
I think that's where
that's so well.
but I think that's where the solution will come from. But I think what I'm saying, you know, it's going to hurt first, and then we're going to have to heal together. And in that healing together is when I'm really hoping that the community uprising that's happening right now is going to stick,
Mm-hmm.
and those community source solutions are going to like spike.
Mm-hmm.
um you know, I'm not going to live in a world where I can't go to my favorite restaurant and I can't hug my favorite person, and um, like my friends can't get employed. Like, that's not a world that's okay with me. And I'm going to do everything I can to find solutions to those problems or support people solving those problems. And I think
Right.
a lot of people feel that way.
Right. 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 Yes, I agree. I think the community that's going to come out of this, hands down, it's going to be a shift in our everyday living. And I'm
Yeah. And
excited
it's
about
there.
that.
I think it was always there. This crisis just created a situation where we had to rely on each other.
Yeah.
And, you know, it sucks that that's what it took to get here, but here we are. And now let's build infrastructure around that. Let's actually
Yes.
democratize things. Let's share our resources, you know?
Yes.
That's,
Yes. 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 Katie, how do
you know,
people keep in contact with you? Do you mind sharing your social channels so that people can follow
yeah,
you and get to know you
they're
more?
open. I'm predominantly on Instagram right now. I've kind of like taken a little bit of a step back from the internet actually. And then when I started doing the getting involved with the global hack, I jumped back in it. But Instagram is good people's. It's open. Hit me up. That's where I share most things. The link in my profile has a link to all the projects that I'm working in on the things that I'm doing. So anything that I'm involved with, you can click out to that. And a lot of my community is there. So a lot of my community actually connects with each other in the comments. And um, you know, I build community. I have a email newsletter you can sign up for in that link. And I'm going to be relaunching the Good People's platform with content from creatives, because a lot of creative energy is being missed right now. I think we're getting inundated with content right now. And so what I decided to do is just reach out to the people I know and ask what they were doing and put out a calendar being like, here's a bunch of stuff you can tune into. So you can check that out. And that's all
We
there.
need that. We so need that. I like, if I would have known Debbie Allen was today at 4 o'clock, I would have shifted my calendar a little bit, right? Like
Same.
I so need that. I so need that. So thank you so much for what you're doing, Katie. Thank you so much for just being that consistent in my circle, being that consistent rock of good energy. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for finding the silver lining, for having these conversations. Thank you for always being the amplifier and the articulate person who puts these stories out there. I love you for it. I've been waiting for this. I'm here to consume it all.
Yes, 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 yes.